Welcome back to another edition of the Deep Cover Podcast. I'm your host, Omar Zahran, and thank you as always for tuning in for another edition of the show. A lot of times on this show, on other podcasts, on TV, we kind of look at sports and we think about the professional game. There's money in the college game, and we're entertained by it. And what we sometimes forget about is that sports is often an escape. It's a path forward. It's something for athletes to focus on, for us spectators to focus on. I kind of wanted to drill into that today with my guest this week, Gary Thrapp. So Gary works with Beyond the Baseline, which we're going to talk about a little bit here, and he is really kind of focusing on developing young people and really empowering them through sports. So Gary, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Doing really good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I was looking into kind of your background, and I just found it fascinating, just the path that you've taken to get where you are today. So, if you could just tell everybody a little bit about that background and how you came to wanting to found something like Beyond the Baseline that you have going on today.
It's really a progression from, gaining a lot of energy and love for sports when I was young, playing them myself. It didn't take me long to realize I wasn't going to play at the collegiate or the NFL or Major
Right.
League Baseball for sure. But I wanted to be involved. And then it really amped up when I started having kids and wanted to get them. I learned so much, like everybody does, both good and both bad, playing youth sports. I wanted to, when I had kids, kind of take a really good approach and learn as much as I could on what works and what doesn't. So I literally, with 4 kids, spent a lot of time watching videos, reading books, watching people that were being coached and how they respond. And then, I was getting pretty good. I've been coaching for the last 40 years, kind of felt like I was halfway decent at it. And then look out, a gymnasium came up for sale in our community, a 4-court, 30,000 square foot gymnasium. I decided to buy it. Imagine
Wow.
that. I literally was just looking for a garage just to work with my own kids, driving around different parts of town. And I heard that this facility was available. So back, we just started our 20th year, my wife and I owning it. And it's been just an amazing ride, right?
Mm.
For sure.
Let's dial back before we get into like what you're doing in this now purchased property. Uh, you're talking about you kind of had kids, and then you started to think like, oh, how I want to get involved here and all that. A lot of people might have said youth sports kind of a shit show, and it's a little bit of a disaster or whatever, and just said, wow, that sucks, and just kind of move about with their day. But it really feels like you'd said, well, I should probably do something about this, even if it's on
Yeah.
like a small scale or whatever. So what about it just kind of is that just like a personality thing, or were you kind of truly inspired by something that really said, you know what, I need to pursue this more intently, more passionately, and really get serious about making a difference here?
Yeah, you're already hitting a lot of buttons. I mean, I was just the type of person I kind of looked for the weakest person in high school and tried to help them. I looked for
Right.
people who needed help. So I just had that element about me. I think I learned from my grandma, quite honestly. And then when I became a parent, I had remembered good coaches that helped me get better. And those were really stuck in my mind that really diminished my enthusiasm to play. So I did not want to put as much as I could my kids through that process. So I literally, and to this day, I'm old now. I just love to learn new strategies, learn new ideas. So I've just had that open mind. I never felt like I was an expert at anything, and I still don't. What I do, so I brought that element to, okay, I'm going to watch and see what works and what doesn't. And probably one thing that I realized pretty quickly is that you could be the best professional coach, you could be the best college coach, you could be the best high school coach, but you may not have a clue how to help a 3rd and 4th grader get better.
Hmm.
It's a whole different world. It took me a while to figure that out. And then, of course, your approach needs to adjust as they get older as well. So, and then it's vice versa. You know, a third, fourth grade coach has no clue how to coach high school necessarily without some experience and some guidance. So I really took that open-minded approach and tried to just learn strategies as much as I could over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like anybody who's like pretty good at what they do or somewhat successful, they kind of commit to learning in a way, right? Where the people who end up kind of finding their downfall historically, even are the people who just think that they know everything, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that we never really know everything. And I mean, you think about even just looking into college to professional sports, we see this all the time. Think about the NFL coach that can't figure out the NCAA and the NCAA coach that can't figure out the NFL. You know, it just
Yeah.
it goes both ways. I think sometimes some people forget about that at the lower level, thinking that, well, I coached middle school or I coached high school, I could jump down, a few grades and still be okay. And like you said, it's a whole different animal than what they might be used to. Talk to me a little bit about Beyond the Baseline, and what that's all about. What's the driving force behind all that?
Yeah, imagine deciding to purchase a four-court gymnasium 20 years ago and having nothing going on in it much. What do you do?
Right, right.
I was fortunate enough to have built some relationships in town, so I really didn't know what to expect. We had no business plan. We had no plan of attack at all. We just started looking out in the community to see what was needed and tried to fill in those gaps. So now, flash forward 20 years, we're wall to wall with things going on here. I've started or taken several high school events that we do each year during the high school season that I really love to do. So it's really been a matter of seeing needs in the community and trying to fill those needs in a very positive way, where you bring people together in the wild world of youth sports and try to help them head in a good direction. So that's been a challenge, as you can imagine, because I'm not
Right.
one who hires somebody and says, hey, go out in the gym and let me know if you have any issues. I'm there nonstop. You know, this has been a 24/7, process for my wife and I the last 20 years. So we've lived every day on the front lines of this process. And as you can imagine, you can go to a tournament, third grade tournament over a weekend, and you can see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? Now imagine going through that every single day, and that's what we've lived. I estimated the other day I started, managed, watched over 50,000 games over the last 20 years. So seen a
Jeez.
little bit.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of reps, man. A lot of
Just
reps.
some reps, yeah.
Yeah.
When I
Uh,
flex, I fall over.
yeah, there you go. There you go. When I mean, when you were first starting into this and you were kind of building the momentum, was there a moment where you were just kind of like, "Oof, man, I don't know if this is going to work out. Have I made a mistake?" Or was kind of the eyes always on the prize, so to speak, and you were just kind of pushing forward at all times?
Yeah, one thing I learned early in life, you work your tail off
Mhm.
and do whatever it takes. And when you're sitting there with a lot of debt because you just bought a building, then that motivates you to take action. So, no, looking back, I don't think there was ever a time where I said, yeah, this isn't going to work. Now, I don't know if I could do that today uh,
Right.
with the uh, with the atmosphere of youth sports. It'd be a whole lot different ride at the time. It was just, the travel stuff was just kind of taken off a little bit or just starting in different sectors of youth sports, in different sports. And so I was kind of able to capitalize on that a little bit
Right.
and grow with youth sports. So, but now it's really out of control, and I've never seen anything like it now. And in 20 years, who knows where we're going to be, quite
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, it's rapidly evolving. And earlier you had mentioned the community aspect and just kind of, being a pillar of a community and all that. And I've always viewed sports as a lifeline for people of all kind of backgrounds because, you get on the basketball court or whatever, and the playing field in that sense of regardless of where you came from is kind of level. So is that kind of your viewpoint as well, where you're looking at it as hey, this is a community lifeline for people who, are looking to have different needs from various backgrounds and that sort of thing. Is that how you view kind of bringing people together around sports and in youth sports in general?
Absolutely. You couldn't have said that any better. I say often that I've coached kids that have made it to the Division I level playing a sport, and I've coached kids that are now in jail for the rest of their life for murder one. That's a pretty big, atmosphere. That's a pretty
Right.
big zone.
For sure.
And I've noticed in our community what was needed in such a vast way was kids needing an entry level into sports from a cost standpoint. So
Mhm.
starting probably 5, 6 years ago, I started really reducing our costs, our prices. And
Mhm.
right now, what that means is right now we're offering free basketball and volleyball and then some multi-sport stuff for about 250 kids in our
Mhm.
community because that opportunity gap is really widening with these massive youth sports centers going on around the country and communities, rightfully so, trying to tap into that. Uh, they have to pay their bills.
Right.
And so they've got to keep their costs up. It's amazing how much money you can spend just taking one kid to bat 3 times to a baseball tournament, right?
Mhm.
So identifying that and seeing teams in our community where that were doing well and well coached, and the kids that have money going to a travel team and the kids that didn't sat home, I'm like, no, we can't do this.
Right.
So for so many different reasons. So that's why I was motivated several years ago to start digging into that. And now we're making a pretty good impact, I think. And it's a 24-hour job, right?
Right.
And we love doing it. But there are so many needs in every community out there to keep kids involved.
What's your perspective on the rising cost aspect? I like one thing I hear people in soccer talk about all the time is that the reason that America typically lags behind in that sport versus the global stage is that the cost of travel soccer is so high, and we see it in basketball all the time, and then that's not to mention other sports that have high equipment costs like football or hockey. So how big of a problem do you view this as? And do you think that there are a shortage of people like yourself who are trying to kind of fill in that gap, so to speak?
A big problem, and yes, there is
Okay.
a definite gap there. Uh, what youth sports is being surrounded by are games right now. We need the best way to make money in youth sports is have a tournament, have
Right.
games, have a league. So these huge youth sports complexes expect to do that regularly.
Mhm.
When in fact, like other countries focus on, it's development, it's practices. Our free program has 3 practices, 2 to 3 practices a week for the kids in it.
Mhm.
There's some travel teams around here that cost $1,000 to $3,000, and they might have 1 practice a week. So that's a different
Right.
format, quite honestly, because they're so geared towards going to tournaments and playing games. So that's where we're really, I think, losing out from a worldwide perspective is we're not developing our kids properly to help them get better over time. It's more like, okay, let's just play some games.
Mhm.
And that's really sad. I see that hurt kids a lot. Now, keeping them involved, hey, we need to keep them involved, even if it is playing games. But are we helping them get better in the process, or are we just looking to grab money? And that's what I try to help people realize: is you don't have to spend a lot of money to be good at something
Right.
at all. Now, there are opportunities out there that you want to take advantage of if you have the money, but you don't have to. And that's a tough one to help people understand.
When people kind of talk about the travel teams and that sort of thing, I think the image that they get in their mind is of the shady AAU coach, right? And whether that's right or wrong, that's just kind of the perception that a lot of people have. Do you find that to be a fair stereotype, or is it just kind of painting with a broad brush over, what are the limitations of a system that, like you said, is just prioritizing playing games over development?
Yeah, it's no different than really any industry. You have good people involved, and you have people that maybe just apt for the money, or
Mhm.
just kind of want to be in charge people, and
Right.
so youth sports is no different. Now, I will say when people see the money that you can make being involved, then all of a sudden you'll get people that may have no clue what they're doing just to grab the money. I see that all the time, and they're just money motivated. So as a young parent, as a young coach, it's makes it even more difficult to know what direction to go, because unfortunately, so often the ones that know the least amount of development are the biggest talkers. They talk
Right.
the most, and they can sell themselves pretty fast and pretty strong to parents that aren't sure what direction to go. So that's a huge challenge as well, of course.
So you kind of talked about how you've experienced a gambit of coaching, from coaching a future college athlete into somebody who's in jail, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about life enrichment and sports' development or role in that. I think there's this feeling that a lot of kids aren't getting involved, so they don't gain the lessons that can be had by playing sports. Like for me as a kid playing basketball and soccer a lot, you learn about accountability, you learn about teamwork, you learn about communication. There's so many little things. So from your you guys said 40 years of experience, what life lessons do you find that really are sticking with kids that get involved in sports versus those who don't?
Uh, how many hours do you have? It's amazing, right? I will say the thing that really hits home while while you were asking that question was now the challenges that our kids have growing up, social media, mental health issues. There's chronic mental health issues out there. Why? Because we're staring at our phones for half of the day, and our kids are watching us as parents stare at our phones half of the day. So then what are they watching there? What are they listening to? What are they exposed to? Is there anything you can think of that is as important as school practically than setting that thing down and playing a sport or being involved in something like that? It's huge. Never before do I think youth sports is more important than it is right now, based on what our kids are exposed to and confronted with. I can't imagine what it'd be like growing up right now. Can you? I mean, it's amazing.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
The challenges kids have. So anytime we can set that thing down and get our kids involved, that's awesome. Now, you know what a challenge is, and I see it all the time. And I wrote about it in my book, The Wild World of Youth Sports. Kids love to be acknowledged when they achieve something. I'm doing, as a coach, I'm doing a practice, and when a child achieves something for the first time, they look around to see if a parent is watching. You know what they're seeing now when they look up for their parent? Their parent staring at their phone. Their
Right.
parent didn't even notice. I mean, this stuff is mind-boggling when you think about it, what we're doing as adults providing for our kids. So we got to do a better job. So, I mean, my mission right now is to try to help parents understand good strategies to help their child be the best, and then make sure our kids are in a good situation where they can flourish to be the best. And that's a constant challenge. You want to use every minute wisely.
Do you find parents are receptive to that sort of thing, or are they kind of just like, well, I'm the parent, I know best?
You'll get a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Mm,
And I'm not trying to, necessarily take a parent's spot, right?
sure.
I'm just trying to show them what it takes to help their child be good at something. And parents, especially young moms, are very, very receptive to that. Now, dads are experts. Let's just be real. Dads,
Right.
especially if you're talking about basketball or, a sport they watch on TV, whether they played at a high level or not. If you've watched enough basketball, football, baseball, you know exactly how things are supposed to pan out, right? For your third
Right.
grader.
Of course.
So that's a whole nother challenge. But yeah, I see people are very receptive. Now, do they understand good coaching from bad coaching? A lot of them do not.
Mm,
You could have a coach that wins half of his or her games be a heck of a lot better than a good recruiter that grabs the best players and goes out and wins a lot more games. Which is more important? You want a developer or a recruiter, right?
right.
I want a
Yeah.
developer. Now I'll take both, I guess, but I want a developer number one. And that's what I try to help people see what a developer means. It's easy to say fundamentals. It's not easy to teach it. Hold it,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely, definitely. And you had mentioned not trying to place the parent thing, and I'm just reminded, like when I was a kid, like I was very close to my dad, and um, like, but we still had other strong male figures in my life, like uncles and family friends and that sort of thing. So I would hope that parents see that as well, as a positive. Currently on your website for Beyond the Baseline, it's mostly from what I saw, just all basketball and volleyball.
Yeah.
Is there a reason why those are the main sports that we're focused on, or are you looking to expand to other sports in the future?
Yeah, in our gym, I've done basketball, volleyball. I've done wrestling events and stuff at our gym. We have a boxing group that's here as well. Um, I've done roller derby, soccer. I've done so many things, but you go with what the trend is and what people want. And it ended up, I was just able to fill, especially doing the free stuff. I was able to fill the gym with basketball and volleyball. So that's what turns out I was more specialized in.
Mhm.
But we do have, one event that I do run is uh, it's a sports sampling event. So we give kids an opportunity to come in 8, 9, 10-year olds that come in and they just sample 7 or 8 different sports just to give them, a feel for what each of them's like. Because a lot of them specialize into one sport and don't get an opportunity in another one. So we do a free event for our community. And last time we had about 70 kids at it, which was really cool. So we try to hit a lot of different variety of things, but specialize in basketball and volleyball.
Do you view the specialization in youth sports as a net negative or a net positive? When people say, "Hey, you're a really good second baseman in baseball, and maybe you also happen to play other sports, but you're really good at that. So let's lock you into that pretty early." That seems to be a little bit of the norm. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, but do you view that focus on specialization into one sport and just sticking with that one sport to be a good thing or a bad thing?
I prefer not to specialize into one sport. Now, of course, you could say, "Hey, look at that family over there. They got 4 Division I athletes, and they all specialize in a sport." And say, "Yeah, now what are you going to tell us, right?"
Mhm.
So it's difficult because there's success stories regardless of what angle you take. But one thing I did with my kids starting at an early age, I did not want to, even though I was really into football, basketball, I did a little golf. I wasn't any good at it. Did some baseball. I said to each of my kids growing up, "You guys, we're going to put you in a variety of different things. We're going to give you options. We're going to get you involved in different things. You're going to do something, but you can decide what you like." So that's the approach we took, a pretty healthy approach. Now, they didn't like to run. They didn't like to do this, swim. We took them swimming. We took them running. We tried them different things. And we were able to kind of identify what worked for them. But at the same time, realize from a long-term basis, they are getting exposed to a lot of different things. And what they like or dislike now as a 4th grade, 3rd grader, whatever, when they're 18, they might latch on to something completely different, might blow you away. Uh,
Yeah. Do you think that in our society in 2025 today that there's a diminished focus on sports for kids? Like where people, I feel like when I was a kid, right, and I was born in the late 80s and grew up through the 90s, and I feel like there was an emphasis on it, right, where you were almost expected to participate in some sort of sport, right? Do you think that emphasis has gone away today with so many other avenues to fill up a kid's time?
yeah, I do in so many respects. And the competition really to be the best at something is kind of thin.
Mm,
Let's be real. Just take a look at some local high schools in different communities. What's their chronic absenteeism? So often we can't get kids to school regularly.
right.
So what are the chances they're going to go to a practice regularly or show up at games regularly? That's one of the biggest challenges I see with the kids that we work with is they're not used to doing things on a regular basis. They're not necessarily used to getting a good workout over an hour, hour and a half period. So that's like a learning experience with so many kids. Now, obviously, if you have a family that's very strong and very experienced with different things that in development, then you can help a child be really good at anything, right? But that's what I see now with all the different things we've already talked about as far as what kids are up against, the challenges. This is a real problem that we do have in our culture right now, is being committed to something and sticking with it, regardless of what it is, in a positive way, obviously.
I mean, what do you think that stems from in terms of the not being able to stick with it? Is this just kind of like this? I want to call it like a disposable culture that we have, right? But it kind of feels true, right? Where there's so many things at your fingertips that you just are always on to the next thing. Like I do writing outside of this podcast, right? I've learned that no one looks for the classic piece anymore. It's just the latest piece, right? So, what is that something that you view as like people are just that inability to focus on one thing now because there's just like a paralysis of choice that we have of just the next thing that a kid could be doing?
Let's just be real. Turn on the news for 5 minutes. Talk about
Okay,
instability. I
right.
mean, regardless of what your background is and what your interest is, it's just, we just have an unstable vibe right now overall in our country, and when you transfer that to people having difficulties from a financial standpoint, the job market, whether it's good, bad, or what have you, uh, what I've found in youth sports when I'm conducting an event and we have issues like people not getting along, and I go up and I'm not one to sit, go hide in a corner. I go up and talk to people and try to build relationships over time. What is very clear in my mind is it's not so much what just happened in the game that upset them. That might have triggered it. It's issues they have at home. It's issues they have at work.
Mhm.
It's issues they have in our community, the instability that they may feel. And it plays out while they're watching their fourth grader play a sport.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, yeah, we have a lot of work to do in that standpoint. What I'm trying to help so many of our leaders here in our community do is step up and start being more vocal. Just like I mentioned, youth sports, so many of the coaches that get all the attention are the big talkers.
Mhm.
Well, that's what you have in your community too. A lot of big
Right.
talkers. We've got great people all the way around, right? So many of them are just locked into what they do, and they don't have time to speak up and try to help others from a leadership standpoint in that regard. They're doing their work. That doesn't mean they're not great leaders. They're just quiet and do it. So we need
Yeah.
more quiet doers out there talking.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. My last question for you, Gary, is, and I think we've kind of touched on it already in through these other questions, is when you look kind of high level view of what you're doing with all this work, like what's the ultimate goal? Like when you kind of go to bed at night and like this is what I'm working towards. What do you view that is for you right now?
I love success stories, but based on, we have kids that have come here, had no interest in sports, now playing at
Mhm.
the college level in different sports, uh, which is really cool. Kids that may have had difficult backgrounds, maybe had family members that got into trouble to try to pull them into trouble, now playing college athletics, now having jobs, now having a strong family. That's my main goal. That's what keeps me involved, because when you see a success story like that, okay, we need another group of kids coming in. Uh,
Mhm.
on a more immediate nature, what is so needed in every community is having lifelines for our kids. Every child, I don't care if they're from a rich family, poor family, involved family, what have you, they need lifelines. They need positive lifelines, because you never know when someone's going to make the wrong decision at the wrong time and get themselves in a heap of trouble. Um, what we try to do here is help create in the kids' minds lifelines that you can call us if you need to.
Mhm.
And it works. When kids trust you, when you look in their eyes and they look in your eyes, and you're there for them, all of a sudden you can move a mountain. And that's what drives me, is building the relationships with kids and then ultimately with the entire families, and heading in a good direction. We've had some really outstanding success stories that just you know, fill your heart up. It's awesome. I love it.
Well, that's a great answer. And, I really have a ton of respect for everything that you are doing. And if you could just let everybody know where they could follow and keep up with everything that's going on with you, and also where they can buy your book that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. It's called The Wild World of Youth Sports, Strategies to Help Your Child Succeed. There's 150 strategies for the young parent and the young coach, and they're very easy. I put stories in there, amazing stories, good, bad, and ugly ones, that people that have read it are like, wow, I feel like you're reading my mind a little bit. So it's available on Amazon. Also, you can go to garythrapp.com and the Quad City Youth Sports Foundation.com. Both of those locations show community work and things we're doing to try to help make a difference in our community, and now trying to expand it to other communities as well. Just get that same vibe out there.
Well, Gary, this was also an awesome conversation. Really appreciated you kind of telling your story and the insight and everything that you kind of are building over there. All the mentions that you just brought up, the website and Quad City Youth Sports and your book will all be linked in the description below this episode if you're interested in learning more. Thank you, as always, for tuning in for another edition of the Deep Cover Podcast. If you like this podcast, we are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Gary, thanks again. And for everybody out there, we will see you all next time.